Right, this is the part, this is your background notes so that you can do the density lab. To start with, we have to talk about density. Here's the equation. This equation means this is density. The m is mass. The v is volume. All right, so let's talk about that. What is mass? We have talked about this last week. This is the amount of matter in an object. And last week we talked about what matter is. So basically, matter is anything that has atoms. Because it has atoms, it has mass. Right? This definition, volume, is the amount of space an object takes up. Right? And since we're talking about space, like this block of wood, the amount of space it takes up, since we're talking about space, we're talking about something three-dimensional. That's what these two are defined as. Now, how do we measure these? Well, we've got this nice little instrument. This happens to be a balance. So I can use that. Let me get this eraser. I can use that balance to measure the mass of an object. The units on that balance are gram units. Second measurement here, the volume. So measuring the space that this object takes up. We happen to have three different ways to measure volume. We'll start with this block. Since I have a nice regular shape to this object, I can simply take the length, the height, and the width. So I can measure length, height, and width and multiply those three. If I happen to take those measurements in centimeters, so let's just say length was 10 centimeters. Let's just say the height was 2 centimeters and the width was 2 centimeters. So to get that volume, I have to multiply 10 times 2 times 2, which is 40. Then I have to multiply those. We have centimeter times centimeter times centimeter. That gives me centimeters cubed. So that's one method. A second method, if I happen to have an irregular shaped object like this piece of copper, it isn't easy to take length times height times width. With this one, I can use a method called water displacement. With water displacement, I have to put a certain amount of water in the graduated cylinder to start with. With this example, if I read that at eye level, I get 10.0 milliliters. So here's that cylinder. I have water up to that 10 milliliter mark. Next, I can take my object, carefully slide that in, tilt it so it doesn't break. Take it and reread that volume. And I get 18.5. So I take my metal, put it into that cylinder, And that water goes up to 18.5 milliliters. The difference in water level would be the volume of that object. So in this case, then take 18.5, what I end up with, and minus 10, what I start with. And that gives me a volume of 8.5. Right, our third method is to read it directly. So if I happen to have, I'm going to dump this out quick. So if I happen to have a liquid, I can simply pour that liquid into a graduated cylinder and read that directly. This happens to be 13.5 milliliters. So 3 different ways to measure volume. When do we use each method? This one, if we have a regular shaped solid, let's get rid of this. So if I have a regular shaped solid, like that block of wood, this one, if I have an irregular shaped object, like that piece of metal. And the last method, if I have a liquid. Okay, the next video, I'll actually take these measurements, print off the data sheet that you've got with this assignment, take that data sheet and get the data numbers filled in as I take measurements. Okay.